Welcome to the Career Wanderlust Podcast, your compass for new career horizons. Today, we are talking with Kara Silverman. Kara focuses on developing communications, public relations, and marketing strategies to generate new growth for her client companies. Most of her career successes have come from using creative thinking and unexpected ideas to reposition a brand or product in the market and connect with those new audiences. Kara has held leading roles within agencies such as Small Roles PR and Clarity, as well as in-house roles such as Global Head of Communications with ACAST. She is now the Executive Vice President with 5WPR, and I'm excited to learn more. Kara, thank you for joining us on the Career Wanderlust Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm really glad you're here with us. Thank you. Please, could you tell us a little bit about what you feel has been some of your favorite career advice and why?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I remember talking to a college student a couple months ago who was just at the beginning of her career and thinking, your career isn't going to go in a straight line. And I think that was really helpful advice for me, and something I definitely wish I'd known when I was getting started is that as much as we want to follow the pattern and take the next step and know what's coming, especially nowadays, most careers don't follow a straight path. They don't go in a straight line, and being open to all the different directions is something very useful.
Definitely. And it's okay knowing that that's okay. The supposed to in your head, actually, it doesn't really exist. We all, and I love this advice because we all have different paths. And as a recruiter, I talk to thousands of people, and all of these paths are different, and they're all unique, and they're all your own. So thank you for letting people know that that is okay and to be expected. Don't need to
most definitely. I think the trick is being able to storytell whatever it is that you're experiencing and understanding the through lines yourself. So even if it feels like one job isn't connected to another job, or if you have a gap or you're kind of trying something being experimental, as long as you can connect the dots and help an employer or someone you're trying to work with understand what your career path looked like and kind of how you got from A to Z, I think that's what matters, and being open to wherever that path goes.
Completely. And that's great advice as well. Understanding your own story, why you made the decisions, being able to be very clear in your communications with your next potential employers is incredibly important. And that makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, what about a story? I'd love to hear a story from people. Is there something that happened in your career that ended up being an impactful lesson to you? What happened and what did you learn from it?
I think something that has been reinforced for me many, many times over is that relationships matter probably more than anything else.
Mhm.
And that knowing someone will open a door for you in a way that just being good at something isn't going to do. I think the last time that I interviewed in a real way for a job was 2011.
Okay.
And pretty much since then, every role that I've had, every job, every position has been the result of getting to know someone, working on a project with someone, collaborating in some way. That's not necessarily a story, but I think it's a lesson that's become really true over time. I think it's also true in the execution of my work and the execution of PR. Relationships really matter. If you know someone, you can ask questions, you can get through the door. It maybe won't guarantee a result or something like that, but I think the relationships are really powerful, and that who you know matters more. The story I always tell to demonstrate this is actually about my brother. When we were teenagers, my brother got a job at the Great Steak and Potato, a restaurant, like a fast casual chili Philly cheesesteak restaurant in Ohio. He had never worked in a kitchen, did not know how to cook, was not the family member that was helping out around Thanksgiving or anything like that. When he got that job, I remember being just shocked and saying to my dad, I cannot believe someone hired Jason to work in a kitchen. He doesn't know anything. That's crazy. And my dad said, well, you have to remember his friend also works there. And so his friend probably said to his boss, my friend Jason is dependable. You should hire him. And that's how he got the job. And that story from, I think I was 10, that story has completely colored the entire way that I've approached my career. And I've really invested in building relationships and getting to know people inspired by that, and really looking at that and thinking, that's how I want to move through this world.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you said that you haven't interviewed in a real way in quite a while. And I know that you've had different positions since then. So,
Yes.
like in your current role with 5WPR, is that through relationships? I take it that was a similar situation.
Yes, well, I'm lucky to have rejoined 5W for now the third time. This is
Oh, wow.
I'm a boomerang employee,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I've come back a couple times. They're definitely doing something right.
That's
But
what
yeah, this was a more than 2-year conversation that didn't start as a direct, "Hey, we have an open role." It just started as a get to know the new CEO who was a peer of mine many years ago, get to know him, have a conversation. I referred some business to 5W.
Mhm.
They had an opening come up. Was it the right time in my life? Was it the right time for them? And then when the right fit was there, it made sense to join the team.
Mhm.
And so it was a really long conversation. There wasn't a formal, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Show me,
Yeah.
tell me about a time that you handled a stressful campaign. Of course,
Yeah.
I have proven those things over many years.
Yes.
But yes, that was a
Even for
relationship.
them, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was definitely a relationship.
Yeah. And now with could you tell us more about 5WPR? I mean, what do they do well? What do you look for in talent? What has attracted to them over and over again?
Great question. What I really love about working here is that it's an incredibly fast-paced, incredibly dynamic company that moves at the speed of our clients. So
Mm,
we don't get stuck in lots of long-term planning and lots of, 2, 5, 7-year thinking. We certainly love a strategy, but we're really nimble and we pride ourselves on that.
yep.
We're also very kind of bold thinkers, creative thinkers, very willing to take a chance, willing to make interesting statements, willing to kind of like come out with an opinion on an issue. And then we're a true generalist agency, which I don't think you see quite as much anymore.
Mhm.
5W has a true kind of consumer part of the business and then a corporate and technology side of the business, which is where I sit.
Great.
And you also asked what we look for in employees.
Mhm.
I think we look for people with great critical thinking skills, people with really strong media relations experience,
Mhm.
people who are ready and willing to put themselves out there, people
Yeah.
who move really quickly and are able to see something in the news and draw a connection to a client, even if it doesn't seem obvious,
Mm,
and people who are willing to try. I think we get really excited about ideas that can come from anywhere. It's not a particularly
love.
hierarchical business,
That's
which
great.
is always something that's really spoken to me and why part of the reason I came back.
Agree. I know. I love places that value everyone's opinion and everyone feels heard and seen. I just think that's incredibly important. Yeah. So I'm curious, have you read anything or watched something or listened to something that had a positive impact on your life that you think others could benefit from as well?
I love podcasts. That's part of the reason that I
Yeah.
worked at ACAST was to be sort of closer to podcasts. And I think podcasts are probably the thing that I would recommend the
Okay.
most. Some of them are silly. I think Normal Gossip is probably a podcast I would recommend that maybe doesn't feel connected to your career, but is actually a really good example of how careers don't take kind of normal paths. Normal
Hmm.
Gossip is a show that takes silly little gossip from niche communities and talk the host shares a story with the guest and they go back and forth. It's really great. But
That
the thing
sounds
that it
fun.
also does is looks at the way gossip fits in our society and how gossip, the role that gossip plays,
Interesting.
especially with women. And I think that that's such an interesting thing to think about with our careers and sharing information about what it's like to work at a place and how to think about how you should present yourself and what people are caring about these days.
Right.
Gossip, information sharing, such a fine line. And so I think that's probably a podcast that I would recommend. I think other ones that have been really useful are things that How I Built This is another great example that I'm sure you've probably heard before, which is a
No.
podcast. Oh, it's with Guy Raz. It's
Mhm.
wonderful. It's the story of entrepreneurship. They talk to
Great.
founders from all around the world who have started companies like 1-800-Flowers, Edible Arrangements, all the way through
Great.
to like Airbnb. And you get to
Mhm.
hear all the different stories about how businesses came to be.
Oh, fascinating.
And
Yeah.
they're not always applicable because sometimes those companies are huge and far away, but it's helpful to hear how sometimes people fail when they're getting started with something,
Exactly.
or how maybe they were really successful and then they took a wrong turn, or it was built really slowly over time. And I think that's really helpful for your career as well.
I completely agree. Hearing other people's stories, it's relatable. It helps you. I mean, you're able to kind of learn some of the lessons through listening to them. and you're able to relate your own self to other people. I don't know, you just feel less alone. And you, like, even just listening to people, you kind of can feel heard, if you will.
I
So
agree.
I love that. And I haven't listened to either one of those podcasts, so I'm excited. I love the question
Highly
because
recommend.
you just get exposed to new things that you haven't either read or watched or listened to. So thank you for sharing. So well, now before you go, I'm curious if you could share with me, what do you feel is your personal superpower, and how has it benefited you in life?
I think something that I've really developed over time is my kindness muscle. And I think that
Ooh.
that's something that you don't hear a lot in successful business people. Most
Mhm.
people assume that as you climb your career, you have to be like more ruthless, more tough. And I'm still ruthless and tough, but I'm also kind and polite and understanding. I think that's really important in being successful, is treating people with
Yes.
kindness. And I want to work with people who are kind and respectful. I want to work with people who are successful and doing great things and making the world a better place and building businesses. But I don't think that you need to be difficult or
No.
rude to do that. And I think it's taken me a long time to learn how to be kind while also being direct and clear and effective and not being underestimated. And I think
Mhm.
that's a superpower.
Yes, absolutely. Kind does not mean you're a pushover.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
And
exactly
and
right.
and I thank you for this because I think it's incredibly important. Kindness is a superpower that anyone can learn and develop, and it absolutely is a superpower. And I completely agree with you that, people kind of see I don't know, the pressure moving up the ranks, like you have to be this tougher kind of person. But that's society, that's history that has told us that. That's actually not truth. That's just what we've come to believe, right? As like a group think almost in a way. And what I love is that so many people are breaking that mold and breaking out that realm to show that leaders, kind, compassionate leaders, are the most successful. And that's what the studies are showing. It's amazing because not when you are a kind leader, you create a kind environment and people thrive in a kind environment. They do. And that's where that creativity comes in. That's really where that's that beauty. So thank you for sharing this. I think it was incredibly important.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time and sharing your insights with us. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here.
Thank you for joining us on the Career Wanderlust Podcast. If you find value in learning from others, give us a like and subscribe. If you're looking to grow your communications, marketing, public relations, or sales and biz dev team with the best talent and quickly, check us out at paradigmstaffing.com and submit a request. We are wishing you a most successful and fulfilling career. Until next time.